I know that guy.
Yeah, live already, man.
Live already.
Yeah.
Welcome.
We better not to say something, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Hello, everyone. This is Mr. Dirk Johan Stromberg. Okay.
Hi. Thanks for having me here, Paul.
Okay, yeah.
It's good to be here.
Yeah, and what are we doing today?
I'm going to talk a little bit about some of my work, and but kind of in a way that hopefully might give some people some ideas of how they can work on their own work, whatever that may be. So whatever artistic practice they work in. So whether you're performer, composer, visual artist, hopefully some of my failures can be used to help you out.
No, it's not failure. Yeah, but we're really pleased to have you here in the name of BSRU College of Music. Yeah, we really look forward to what we gonna show today. Yeah.
Oh, thanks. Well, thanks for having me here. Thank you, BSRU, and students who are here, and Paul. Appreciate it. Just a little bit about me. I'm Dirk Stromberg. I'm a composer, or reformed composer, improviser, maker, instrument designer, audio engineer, many things. And over the years, they've kind of slowly come together into a singular place, which is good. So today I'm going to talk about some of my works, and I'll talk about some of the projects I've worked on, and so on. So I thought I'd start with a video. Less talking, more video. I need my glasses.
Yeah, me too.
So this is an excerpt from a performance I did, and you can see it's during COVID times by my mask. But it was originally from 2016, the piece, and this was a performance in 2021 at the Art Science Museum in Singapore. I'm based in Singapore. Okay, so that's a piece called that's from a piece called Images of Ascension, and the piece is I enjoy the piece because it's not really my piece. It's a piece that I created with many people. So the video is a collaboration that I did with Singaporean film director Claire Chong. The rhythm engine, which is a form of artificial intelligence, was created by a researcher Prashant as part of his PhD work at National University of Singapore. The score that we created for this performance was created with me and Kush Abdul, who you saw playing there as well, and it was several collaborations that came together over time to create this. So it wasn't just, there was the film version that we did in 2016 or 17. Then there was the rhythm engine, which was this other thing that I was helping this guy with his PhD. And then there was this collaboration where we said, well, how does this whole thing come alive as part of a performance? And this set of performances actually was the first live and in-person performances with my instrument here, the Fryprome. So it was kind of the first time I was out really playing with it outside of a studio or outside of telematic work. So it was quite interesting. And so for me, this is how I work. When I compose, I sit down and I work with other people. I create with other people. It's not about me sitting in a room writing dots and sticks, as we like to call them. Instead, it's a lot more kind of interactive, and we discuss and we write things down. There is a score to this, which I do have somewhere in the world, and it's quite fun. And I think so. What I'm going to talk about today is this process of how I've developed things. Because I work in, something like this is relatively complex. You have a whole film aspect that you have to work with filmmakers. You have to build instruments. You have to, work with people in the creation of all these little parts. And if you wait for everything to be finished in day one, you're in trouble because you'll never finish. So for me, I work in what we say iteration. So I'm always developing ideas, and it's a constant set of developments. And I look at every performance as part of a whole. So if you come see me play tonight, I'll play 20, 25 minutes with Dawn, and that is part of a whole thing I do, whether it's yesterday or tomorrow or next week, and that's the way I look at it. So how did I get here? As I said, composer, improviser. I think I was a jazz guitarist when I was young, jazz, blues, anything that people didn't like, I enjoyed playing it, and I found even new layers of that possibility. Although the jazz here is quite popular, I started writing and composing avant-garde classical music, which is even more music people don't like, so it fit me well. And I started kind of working in electronic music. I started doing some audio engineering. And so I had all of these different things happening kind of in parallel and developing in parallel. I probably was a better player at first and a better composer. And over time, I've become a better audio engineer and other things. And eventually, they start to inform each other. So here we are, educator. I have to say this because it certainly pays a lot of my bills working for a university. I work for University of the Arts Singapore, LaSalle College of the Arts. I think I like sound and I like performance. I like the idea of live music. I think there's something you can capture in live music that's really fun. At any scale, I was talking about going to Coldplay and whatever my opinions are of the music, I think that as a production, it's pretty phenomenal work, having had really good experiences with being able to meet some of their engineers is kind of interesting. So I like the way that sound and performance works together. As you can see, I have done more complex, sillier things. So I started kind of building, I started making instruments really as controllers, starting when I was in graduate school, maybe 20 some years ago. I was working with MIDI controllers, and I wanted to see how can we make something where it's not just checking my email behind the computer, So I started working with MIDI controllers. MIDI used to be very expensive, by the way. I remember my first MIDI controller was $150, and it had 16 knobs, and it was like this big, Now, if you could buy a Korg Nano for $60, $70, and it has a lot more going on, and it's a lot smaller. So that's where I started. Eventually, when I was a professor in Istanbul or lecturer in Istanbul for a couple of years, and I was able to get a residency at Stein in Amsterdam, and I learned that you could use game controllers, like video game controllers, as a way to create music, and that was, I think, a big thing for me because I had done some work with hardware and soldering, but I had not really figured out how things came together, and so the HID devices, the mice and joysticks, gamepads, was a great way for me to start to hack things apart and figure out what I could do. And they can be very performative. This instrument here you see in this guy's hand, he's a very big guy with a very small instrument. It's called the sphere. So the thing is all of this wasn't like I woke up and said, I'm going to make an instrument. It was, I want to make music. I want it to be performative. I want to work with other people. It wasn't, so sometimes I was still playing guitar. I still play guitar until I was in my late 30s professionally. And then I one day realized I stopped playing because I'd been playing other things. So it wasn't like it was I woke up with a eureka moment, the apple fell on my head, like Newton. Instead it was I would work on something, I'd go back to something, I'd go forwards, I'd go back, I would go over here. And eventually I got something from this. So much like this is Harry Parch, I wanted to find new ways of exploring my ideas. And this was, I think, a big part of my motivation. That's the one thing that was linear, was how do I explore how I perform, how do I notate what I perform, how do I actually think about music? I always say notation should be how we think about music. So we should be notating the way we think about music. And we need to find a way to communicate the way we think about music in a way that other people can understand. I firmly believe Bach thought about music as sticks and dots, But I don't necessarily think about music as sticks and dots. I think about it as different things. So I need a new way to do it. Harry Parch was very interested he wrote sticks and dots, but he built all of his own instruments, which is quite interesting. He built all of these. So he was quite a carpenter to be able to build all these instruments. He wanted to work with different tuning styles and different intonations and stuff. So to do that, he had to build all of his own instruments, which is pretty impressive, by the way. I mean, these are all acoustic instruments. Do you know his work? No? No? Oh, very cool. It's quite avant-garde, but very interesting. And one thing was, as a guitarist, I was working with a free improv group. And I think really in my years in Istanbul, I worked with a quite successful free improvisation group called Isla Küpek. I think it's my only album that ever made a chart. I was working with a saxophone player, Robert Riegel, and I loved the way he played. He was a student of Cecil Taylor in Chelsea. And for me, I brought my guitar, and I'd have a pedal board, and I would have my things I would put in the guitar. I had to bring a lot of things with me to get to something as interesting as what I felt he was playing as a saxophone player, and he came with just a saxophone. So I was like, well, how can we do this? So this was a big part of my motivation. I was very jealous. I wanted to be able to do this. So I explored more and more, and it was a hard process. A big influence of mine, and here was a guy who was doing something very similar, Hugh LeCane. Hugh LeCane is a Canadian composer. I mentioned I would say him. Tell him about. Yeah. So here he is, and he created something called the electronic sackbut. Do you guys know this instrument? Very cool instrument, by the way, from mid 20th century. But the problem was Hugh LeCane built this amazing instrument. He made some great music, and this is for an electronic instrument, if you listen to it, you're like, oh my gosh, this is so ahead of its time. I mean, it's incredibly. It has a very wide range of expressive capabilities, so it's very cool. Based on the keyboard, but I can forgive him. The interesting thing was, to do this, he had to have an incredible amount of engineering skills. Matter of fact, Hugh LeCane was responsible for helping develop radar in the 40s. So, I mean, he was a serious engineer who happened to be actually a good musician. And of course, I hate to tell you this, I'm not a serious electrical engineer like Hugh LeCane was. So this is something that was kind of difficult, is how do we have accessibility, And do we have to be an engineer to do these things? I would say then, yes, you had to be an engineer. Oh, Michel. So then, this is a guy from Stein. This is a guy who I was quite influential to me when I was young, and this is quite a good video to kind of think about what an instrument can be and rethinking what instruments are. This is Michel Weisthus, who was the director of Stein from the 60s until maybe late 90s, early 2000s. Unfortunately, passed away a number of years ago. So what you can see here, he's playing something called the hands, and he's able to sample different things. So here he's sampling the audience clapping, because he has a microphone built into it, and then he's playing with that idea of the audience clapping. So he's really changing the idea of how we think about performance, right? Because here, the nature of the sound is actually the audience, and he's bringing that then into the performance. And it's a very interesting instrument. He was very lucky. As part of the institution he worked for, he collaborated. He had hardware and software designers to help us out and so help him out. Unfortunately, again, Hewlett Kane, electrical engineer. Michel had a number of engineers who worked with him to develop. And what I found was I don't have teams of people to work with. Actually, usually I am the team working for other people. So how do I do this? And this is where I think Stein was very important to me, was it gave me some very basic tools to start to build my own ideas from. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. There we go. So here we go, some economics. Game controllers, a cheap way to make music, by the way, relatively cheap. This is why I think this is the first instrument I designed. It's actually 2 game controllers and a Wii. And it was quite nice. I played this for, 6-7 years. Yeah. Till 2016, I'm guessing. Yep. So from 2008 to 2016. So that's 8 years I played this. And it was really important in my development. To get actually just kind of go like, yes, it's just 2 game controllers, but how did I develop the software? And my friend actually probably said the most important thing ever. He's a great audio engineer, and he wanted to sample some of what I was working with. And his question to me was, what is the role of my instrument? I said, well, the role of my instrument is it can do anything. And he was like, no, it can't. I said, well, what do you mean? He goes, well, it's really a background instrument that does beautiful textures and things. And that was a real big motivating factor where I had to think about, okay, what am I doing and what do I want out of it? So it was really good. It was a very challenging question. I wasn't very happy with him at the time. No, I was okay. But it was obviously, it's always hard to be asked a question which makes you reconsider what you think you're doing and have to kind of reconsider. So it was really good. It was a very good development platform with some problems. But yeah. I used to go gigging with it, and I was using this massive granular synthesis process I had designed at the time based off of some cloud granular synthesis. And it was so CPU expensive, I had to travel with a 3.3 gigahertz, like 4 quad-core tower CPU, okay? But I had a little screen. So I'd show up at the gig, and I'd put the computer under the table so nobody could see it, and I'd play. And people would be like, they'd look at my game controllers and go, wow, that's so amazing. No idea that I had like a trolley with a computer that I had to bring around with me. So so there it is, some nice. So it's pretty small. It was nice. It was small. It was, because it was quite nice to work with. My friend made a nice aluminum bracket for it, so it had some, it was kind of interesting in its simplicity. What I love about this is its accessibility. You could make this so easily. You know what I mean? And so it was something that you could sit there and make an instrument that was very cool, very easy to use, very, it would cost you a little bit. It was wireless. So here's some of my objects. I'll point them out. This is sphere. This is a first version of the sphere. Second version. The third version, it got bigger as we went along. And they're spheres because they're like metal balls. Two versions of the Stromberg phone, the original and the second one. I was trying to find ways of making it just easier, and then here we did it. And then my second version of my phallophone, which is kind of, I would say, one of the more important instruments in my development. The sphere was kind of this side project attached to other things, and it was really good because it taught me failure at its greatest point. Like there were a lot of problems with it. It had a lot of issues. I kept on developing it. I kept on finding new issues. I think there was a fourth version eventually, if I remember, built off the third. And it was really neat. It was, it was really important, but it was part of this nonlinearity. And I create, you see that there's different versions. This is part of Joyce Coe's, it's called Konamos now. And I was part of the original design team, and this is something that we started working on in 2009, and this was the most recent version in 2022. So that's 13 years of developing this project, and in different forms. And new version, I think, coming next year, unless I change my name and move. So I believe in iteration. Sphere 1, you'll see it has like an umbilical cord. That's to power it. It was big. It was uncomfortable. Part of it was just because there was the technology available at the time was just more simple. And to do more complex things, you had to have a higher level of education than I had. You can see I got a little bit sexier, cleaner. And now you can see it's wireless and big. The guy who actually owns this is 2 meters tall. So giving him a small thing was really quite funny. But now you give him something big, it looks better. So there's problems. The problem with designing a sphere, I'll tell you this, is how do you hold on to it? You can't hold on to a. I should have lubed the thing up so it would just fall all the time and it'd be more exciting. But it's one of the problems is how do you hold on to a sphere? It's a good question. It doesn't. You can't. That's the problem.
Shall we sit?
I don't know if I have any performances of it. There's probably some video online. I don't have it with me. Other things I did, line segments as Kuhn. As Kuhn, our mutual friend. So this is where I began. I was working with strings. This is in a performance in Hanoi in some year when I was younger and skinnier. And then it became kind of a full thing. Ooh, we have links, which we're going to assume work. And you can see this is actually, this would be the third version of this. And you can see the strings now have become these lit L-wire that you can play, and then it came with this whole, all of this is playable. All of these panels, all the black is playable. There are these balls which you can pull, and they have lights in them that can make music and stuff, and so on. This is quite a big piece, actually. It's the size of this room. It's a good way to spend your life. Phallophone, this is the original idea. It's quite big. It's where I bought. It's where I buy my metal. So I got a metal guy. He doesn't play metal. Here's an original, one of the first performances. This is in the U.S. These are some early performances with it. And the phallophone was, I think, the first instrument I built that was really, I started to kind of make my own hardware and design my own circuits and build things. Partly because I had learned a lot, and partly because some things had become more accessible. So I didn't need, it wasn't so hard to do at the time. Here's version 2, which is based off of it. This is me dressed up playing it. This is for the film Images of Ascension. I'm sorry, I didn't wear this today. I should. The first time I put on a Zentai suit, I almost freaked out because it's like, but it was quite fun. Yeah, me playing. And here's a nice video, so I don't talk too much. Oh. It's looping. We could have watched it all day. Sorry about that. Close. Good. So you can see it's an early stage of it. This was actually that was me rehearsing for the Images of Ascension recordings. One thing I had learned playing the Strombophone was that if you the way the Strombophone was designed is I had to build a pitch system. So at first I ignored pitch. I said, you know what? I'm not interested in pitch. I'm not going to deal with it. I'm going to throw it out the window, and I'm going to just deal with pitch the way I want to think about pitch. So I did that for a while until my friend asked his fateful question, and I realized that I started to have to find a way to deal with pitch. So I started to look at different ways of dealing with pitch. The problem with game controllers, do you guys play gaming at all? Yes, yes. Okay, I don't game. I game with my son, but that's my gaming experience. The problem is they're nothing like an instrument. So they have none of the fingering of an instrument. You know what I mean? You think about like, what do you guys play? Guitar? Guitar? Drums? Bass. Bass. Oh, good. You guys will work. There's always work as a bass player. The problem is there's no, the Strombophone doesn't have any fingering like a guitar, right? So here I am. I have all of this work as a guitarist, and I've gotten rid of all of this experience. I've thrown away this whole physical experience I have. So what I started to do with the Fallophone was design this idea of having a neck, because I could then take those physical things which I had learned. And this is part of what I'm saying about not linear. You know, I had game controllers and all of these things, and then I came back to this idea of like, well, could I have parts of the guitar? And this is when I stopped playing guitar, because I realized I had something that was interesting and workable. I think that's why I would say this is in 2016 when I first built it, is when the big change happened. I stopped playing guitar naturally. It wasn't like I woke up and said, I'm not doing this anymore. It was just that I started taking gigs doing this and stopped taking gigs playing guitar. A couple problems. It was a bit complex. You can see this is the inside of it. I got better at building it, so there was a version 2. So the first version had its issues, so I built a second version, and the idea was to make it modular. It's much easier for touring, okay? So this is it taken apart in pieces, put together. I have video. Want more video?
Yeah.
Sure.
Can do, yeah.
Oh, this is, I know this one. I think this is the one. Oh, okay. It's a better version, I think. It's a bit more refined. Some of it's just easier to tour with. I mean, if you can't tour with your instrument, what's the point of it? You know what I mean? If you can't go out and play, then it's just stuck in the studio. Bass players probably. Any of you play upright bass? Yeah, I'm so sorry. It's hard, yeah. Life is hard. So you see, I just got smaller and smaller. So a lot of it was trying to figure out how to make things simple and workable. Some photos of me. That's in Kuala Lumpur, UK. I built a third version finally. It got bigger, heavier. It had 3 voices, which was interesting, but it was a little bit extreme. It was too much. I had gone too far, which is an interesting thing as well. I like the look of it. It had all these opening panels, but you can see it just had more and more stuff in it. The computer's built inside, actually, on all these instruments, which is nice. But it's also made out of copper, so it probably weighed more than my bicycle. Too heavy, too complex. So you can see that if I had waited for my final version of the Falaphone, I'd waited too long. The final version wasn't really particularly interesting. It was too much. It was too complex. It was too heavy. It was too many things. So what I did is, you can see that in these 3 videos, there's an early version, there's, and it was interesting in its own way, and it became, it developed and it became better, and then I became better at playing it, which are 2 different things. I've barely changed the software. I've not changed the software much in 3 years, but I've become better at playing it, which is the key. So images, I've already shown you some of this. As a collaborative work, for me, this is a great way to work. Working with other people is wonderful. This week, I've had the pleasure to play with different people each night, and each night has given me new ideas, new ways of approaching. I wouldn't call them challenges because it's too much fun, but you have to kind of you have to adapt. And I think that's such an important part in our careers is that we have to adapt and look at how we adapt. Okay, there's a film version. There's a lot of stuff. A lot of live performances. This is images of, this is me with Abdul. Here we're doing this is during COVID, we're doing a live stream interactive performance in Belgium with beer. We had to have beer because it was Belgium, but we're in Singapore. It's important. So eventually I thought I'd play the Falaphone forever. I loved it. It was amazing. And then one day I was like, I'm so done with this. And I'd already had this idea for this new instrument, which is the Fryprome, probably in 2019. And it was kind of in the back of my head. I wanted something lighter weight, more simple. I had some things that I wanted to explore, which I think were more interesting. And so I came up with this. Simplicity, lightweight, wireless. I mean, you can see this is quite light. I have no muscle mass. Photos of it, you probably don't need photos. It's in front of you. So what it is it's 48 capacitive tiles, so it's touch sensitive like your phone. Uses the same technology as your touch screen on your phone. It has accelerometers, so it knows its position. Okay? And 1 gain knob, which is literally like a gain knob. Works similarly. And then it has just a power switch, which just disconnects the battery basically. And it all goes into what's an ESP32, which is a small microcontroller, which works as an access point. So my computer just logs into it as an access point, like a Wi-Fi. Okay, so it's quite nice. The idea behind it was, I don't know what else is in here. Yeah, the idea was again, how do I didn't want any moving parts. Moving parts break. You know what I mean? Like, so I wanted something that was quite simple, that wouldn't break very easily, that was very easy to tour with, because I always have to check my instruments, because if I bring my instruments on the plane, they think it's a bomb and they get very angry. So I wanted something that was that would do that. It has 3 voices, so these are I think of these as kind of strings. 1, 2, 3. It's only the Falaphone, I think, had 12 or 14 different synthesizers in it, so I could switch between them. And I decided that a new synthesizer is a cool idea, but like if you're a pianist, you guys must play a bit of keyboard, yeah? You know, you have keyboardists, right? And then they change the sound, right? Does the music get better because they change the sound? Or is it the same music with a different sound? Same music, different sound, right? So I thought about this. I said, well, I just want one synthesizer. And I just want to be because it doesn't matter if it sounds like something else. It's the same synthesizer. I mean, it's the same music. So how could I build a synthesizer that was very versatile, that could get me different ideas? So instead of having lots and lots of things, it's just one sonic idea. And then how can you push that sonic idea to the edge? Which is what we do in acoustic instruments, right? You learn how to push your guitar to the edge. You don't sit there and say, okay, you know, I'm now going to change the physics of it. So that was the idea behind it. So 3 voices, only one synthesizer, and then how can I manipulate that to the very ends of the world? That was my idea. Yeah, there's a multi-channel implementation. So it works ambisonic. So I was playing this in the UK for like, you know, big ambisonic domes. You know these speaker domes? Have you seen these? Yeah. So this will work on a speaker dome. Actually, yeah, the full implementation 20. Yeah, and we were doing with D&B Audio Technic in 2023. Although I've done it for other things since, and now also it works with lighting. So DMX lighting. So I have a lighting application. So so if you come to the concert tomorrow at Goethe Institute, you'll see me working with lighting as well with this instrument. Where are we at? I don't know. Oh, this is from a different talk, so that's a different gig. So that's kind of where I'm at with this. I guess I'll show you a bit of this instrument quickly, if you guys are interested. I need my glasses in about a few seconds here. So the way this works, while I go through this, so I turn it on. It should have battery left over from last night. It's a Wi-Fi access point, so I must find it. Okay, so you can see there it is. You can still see it's an early version. It's called ESP32 Test. There's a new version coming out as part of my PhD. Connect. I open up Pure Data. This is everything in this is done in Pure Data. And then what I do is I open it up, and it's doing a calibration, and you'll see when it finishes calibrating, and it calibrates. Because it's capacitance, it's highly susceptible to electromagnetic fields, so microphones and things like this. I have to have a calibration each time. Can turn it up. Oops, sounds like it's on. Okay, and oops. So you can see part of it is, one thing you learn in production is that nobody wants long sound check times. So you can see it's all very quick, very easy. I work in live production, so for me, you know, it needs to be plug, play, quick, easy to go. I was doing a sound check in, must have been 2017. I was playing Falaphone, and it was me, a singer, and an electronic musician. The singer and I sound checked in 5 minutes, and the electronic musician, we had a 1-hour sound check. It took an hour to get his stuff to work. So I'm not into that. So yeah, you can see it's quite You'll see that it's able to play discrete pitches. So my idea of avoiding pitch did not work. It was a fool's errand, as we say. And you can see it plays relatively pitched, but you can see it can play. Oops, it's turned down for yeah. It's also quite agile. So I can go really weird and then get back into really normal places very quickly. So it has a big range of pitch. So I think it's maybe 10, 12, 13 octaves. I can't remember. You can fake, I think, up to 13. I think it's designed at 9. But then you can do kind of noisy things. Granular. So it has a kind of a wide variety of sounds it can do. And then eventually you just have to practice. That's the problem. Because it wasn't one of these things of, I'm just going to add this, I'm going to add this. There wasn't this idea of, I'm going to add another pedal to my board. You know what I'm talking about, right? You're like, oh, I want to be able to do this, I buy another pedal. Do you guys ever buy guitar pedals? Yeah. Yeah, because you go, oh, I want this sound, so I do it. So my idea was, I don't want to do that. Oops. Sorry, it's angry with me. The idea was to actually just very simply create something that would, I have to practice and work on details. So I do something called prediting, where I practice and edit to try to find the right details. So things like that, like getting really good articulation. Sorry. So there's different articulations I can get out of it. So I can just explore articulations as a singular idea just by how I touch it. So it's a lot of programming to get that right. So that's some of my work that I've been working on. This is what I'll be playing. I think some of you are coming tomorrow. And this is what I do. I'm an improviser, and I make music with other people, usually with instruments I make. I usually only play one. This is all I play now. I don't play anything else. I don't go back to the fallophone. It's dead to me. It sits under my bed in a Pelican case. Ready. So, yeah. So, yeah, any questions or thoughts or lunch? Wait. Of course.
Yeah, I'm here to ask, man. I'm sorry. Yeah, I just multitasking a bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, the beginning of this, as far as I understand, is it's kind of mixed between guitar and saxophone.
Yeah, I mean, I think the original inspiration of my instruments were inspired by saxophone and trying to get away from the guitar, and eventually I kind of came back to the guitar physically because I had this capacity. You know, I practiced for years and years. And I think sonically it eventually was able to go beyond what a saxophone could do. But it was, I mean, someone could argue. Or it could go a different way. Maybe not beyond, but it went to a different place than what a saxophone can do. But definitely not beyond, just different.
Yeah.
But equal.
Mm-hmm. And the pitch that you said that you just throw it away.
Yeah, I had to bring it back.
You bring it back anyway? Yeah, because I found out you got some melodic.
Yeah.
Somehow.
And the fallophone also had pitch, but it was continuous. It was like trying to learn the cello. It was painful for me and everyone around it. So this is actually designed in each tile is a whole tone. If you want chromatic in between, then you touch 2 tiles and you get the in-between note. So if you look at this, actually, you can see the pitches. So you can see that's E, You see that, the middle one. And that feedback's there for me because I'm learning still. It's a process.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes someone will give me a melody and I have to actually practice a lot.
All right. Any questions from students? Okay, I will translate for my students later, but now
Yeah.
we just keep QA.
Yeah.
Like for what, maybe you got something to tell us more, or I ask you first. Okay, let's go on with this, yeah?
Yeah.
I start with my, question first. Then, what do you think, what you said before is about the microphone, right? You can be microphone as well?
Yeah, it can do, so if you look at, so if I can do semitone, but I can also so you get microtone through portamento. And you can also kind of fake multiphonics, like a saxophone. Which is a lot more like I'm playing two notes, but it actually behaves more like a multiphonic because of the way it's programmed. But I can also make two notes. Or three. But I can also turn those three notes into a multiphonic. So it's that ability to transition between sounds, which is what I'm really exploring and excited about. It's what excites me, is this idea that you can take a sound and it can go from being this one idea and it can transition into something that's very different and very colorful and unexpected. And you can kind of come in and out of those ideas with practice.
Yeah.
I love to practice. Do you guys like to practice?
I
love practicing.
Yeah. Yeah, it should be.
Yeah, I mean, 40 years into this, it's just what I expect of myself.
Yeah, no pain, no gain.
Yeah.
That's the word, yeah? Because we need to get used, need to really get into it.
Yeah.
Another question is, I'm not sure that you mentioned the version that you can do it like saxophone. Not this one, yeah, not this one.
Yeah, this one you can actually. I can actually plug a microphone into this, and then it does something called convolution. So what I can do is I can take my microphone input, and then I can map that onto the synthesizer that's inside it.
All right.
Actually, I have it here. And by doing that, and then you get kind of different sets of sounds. I don't use it much anymore because I haven't used it probably in a year, because really what I'm exploring is, again, a singular idea.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure I like it. I'm not sure it adds anything that I don't get otherwise. It might be it's a little bit like changing a patch on a keyboard. Maybe something a little bit different. I'm debating whether I like it or not.
All right.
So I haven't been using it.
Yeah, because before I saw you like sucking it, yeah.
Yeah. And it was also, partly I had to do it because the phallophone, you could do it.
Yeah.
And then I had pieces I still had to play, right? I mean, there's pieces, if you get, someone sits in and says, I like that piece, will you come to my festival and play that piece? Well, I mean, you can't just sit there and say, no, because I don't. No, you say, well, I'll figure it out, right, because you're paying, so I'm going to find a way to make this work. So I had to keep it. But actually, it's a little bit more convenient, because now I'll just take any microphone input. So I can either take, I have wireless mics I bring with me, but if I was doing a piece with Scott Wilson, the director of Beast, and we did a piece where he sent me audio, and then that was my input, so that was the source material, and then I sent him my output, and we created a big feedback loop, and then we created a piece based on the feedback loop. And that was one of the pieces actually that started before COVID. on my last instrument, and then it was like, well, how are we going to do this? I said, well, okay, so I had to program it in. So it got programmed in quite early. Yeah. But I have to play. I think tomorrow I'll be using it. I've been told by a Maha kit I must use it. I disagree, but you have to do what you're told.
Yeah, I think it's maybe it's very new here. I think.
Yeah.
And no, I mean not many people doing it, and yeah, that's why he required that. I understand.
Yeah. And the microphone's interesting because I was looking originally at like breath controllers, like an Iwi, the Akai Iwi, or Yamaha has one. I was looking at breath controllers, but they're really quite expensive. They're very delicate, and I realized that actually a microphone is a equally good input. In fact, first time I used a microphone as an input like that was actually one of the guys who's now on the board at NIME was doing some basic controllers using microphone inputs, and I realized it's a really nice control input. So I use microphones instead because it's a bit more versatile. It's also a lot, again, cheaper, more durable, easier to replace. Yeah.
All right.
Do you want me to do the microphone?
Yeah.
Okay, one second.
All right. Yeah. Thank you.
You have to talk for 2 minutes.
Okay.
2 minutes.
ครับก็พูดภาษาไทยได้ละก็อธิบายกันสั้นๆครับก็เป็นเรื่องของแรงบันดาลใจที่ทำให้เกิดเครื่องชิ้นนี้นะฮะหลักๆแล้วเราจับประเด็นกันได้เนาะว่าเขาได้อิทธิพลจากนักดนตรียุคช่วงกลางศตวรรษที่20ที่เราเห็นภาพเป็นคีย์บอร์ดเป็นอะไรนะอันนั้นเขาก็แบบเขาเรียกว่าอะไรวะผมก็ลืมไปละไม่เป็นไรเดี๋ยวผมถามเขาอีกรอบได้คือนั่นแหละมันเป็นเรื่องของไอเดียที่ผสมผสานแต่ผมมองว่าลึกๆมันก็เป็นเขาเครื่องเอกกีตาร์แล้วเขาก็ไปจับพวกแซกโซโฟนที่แบบเป็นสายแบบทดลองอยู่แล้วอะไรเงี้ยมันก็เลยยิ่งทำให้ไอเดียเรื่องเลนส์เสียงเรื่องอะไรมันก็ตามมาด้วยการที่พอประดิษฐ์เครื่องแบบนี้ขึ้นมามันตอนแรกเขาบอกว่าเขาไม่สนใจเรื่องพิชแต่สุดท้ายเขาก็ต้องวนกลับมาอยู่ดีแต่ทำให้มันกว้างอ่ะไม่ใช่แบบเหมือนที่เราเล่นในเฟรตที่เราเห็นมีโฮโทนเซมิโทนแค่นั้นอะไรเงี้ยอันนี้มันลึกไปอีกมันไม่ใช่โครแมติกไม่ใช่โครแมติกธรรมดามันเล่นแบบไมโครโทนรูดเลยใช่ไหมมันก็ได้ยินทุกอนูเลยอะไรเงี้ยมันก็อาจจะเป็นแบบก็ไปทางนอยส์นั่นแหละถ้าว่าไปในเรื่องของซาวด์รวมๆแต่ถามว่าในการที่มันสามารถสั่งเคราะห์เสียงออกมาเนี่ยมันก็หลากหลายมันมีเมโลดี้มันทำโน้ตอะไรเพราะๆก็ได้ด้วยมันไม่ใช่ว่าเล่นให้มันเป็นนอยส์ได้อย่างเดียวคือพูดตรงๆก็คือเอาไปเล่นกับวงเราได้เลยอ่ะเป็นเมโลดี้อยู่กับโพสต์ร็อกอยู่กับอะไรได้เลยใช่ไหมเล่นเมทัลก็อาจจะเป็นแบบเมทัลเวอร์ชันที่อิเล็กทรอนิกส์ขึ้นมาอะไรเงี้ยซึ่งมันสามารถประกอบได้โหเล่นได้หมดไปเป่าเป็นพวกแจ๊สก็ได้อีกถ้าให้เล่นดีๆเพราะว่าเมื่อวานผมก็ไปเห็นโชว์เขาแบบว่าเล่นเบาๆเล่นเขามีโจทย์แค่ว่าในเวนิวแล้วนะต้องเล่นเบาๆเพราะไม่งั้นอาจจะมีแบบโดนแจ้งโดนอะไรก็ไม่ได้ทำให้มันเป็นเสียงเกณฑ์หนักๆก็ทำซาวซะแบบโอ้โหก็เล่นได้ฟังดูลื่นๆเหมือนเล่นแจ๊สนั่นแหละนะฮะมาแล้วอันนี้กำลังเทสนะฮะ
See if it works. I might have to figure out if this is working.
Yeah.
Always interesting. Okay, 1 second. I thought I was ready.
แล้วการประดิษฐ์เครื่องเนี่ยเราจะเห็นอยู่ตามในสไลด์เขาเนาะ
Oh, I know why.
เนี่ยเป็นวิธีการคิดแบบใช่ไหมมันมีวงจรอะไรแบบมันต้องใช้ความเป็นวิศวะสูงมากนะฮะแค่เครื่องแค่นี้ก็ผมก็ปวดหัวแล้วยิ่งถ้าเราเป็นนึกถึงระดับ
So it just uses, it does, if you know Convolution Brothers, does the same thing they do. Just, it's what's called timbre stamping, where you take, you take pitch and amplitude off two different sources and you merge them. So it's quite common. Vocoders do that, basically. And just using a very simple Rode wireless microphone, and it goes in to do that. So it's actually using the synthesizer based on the instrument. So it's the same synthesizer in the instrument, just with my voice added. Feeds back nicely too. So yeah, that's that. It works quite nicely right now, actually.
Yeah, I didn't expect that. Now it's more melodic.
That's more melodic.
Yeah, for me.
Wow.
I don't know. Yeah, it's not about only noise. I translate for students already. It can do in in many music genres.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not only for noise, for experimental only.
Yeah. No. I mean, it's. I mean, last night we were playing quite a bit of tonal music and a lot of pitch stuff, and there's some mulam at some point, I think, or something like it. It was good.
Including Molam as well. Yes.
Yeah. I'm waiting to be asked to join a mulam band. I might wait a long time.
Yeah. We'll see. Not that long, I guess. Yeah.
So,
all right. Anything you want to add more?
No, just I think that for me the important thing is that I hope that people act on the things they want to do. So it's and really, you sit there, if you're working on a tune, you go out and you play it, and you play the best version of it of where you're at. I see a lot of students and artists, they wait for something to be finished, and there is no finished. You know what I mean? I remember when I was young, I would take a gig because I could, and I'd learn how to survive the gig, and that's kind of what I've done in my hardware, my software, and all of this work is just, you're like, okay, well, I can do this much, I'll do that much for the performance, and now that I do 45, 50-minute solo improvised performances comfortably and fun, and it's good. So that's that. I mean, appreciate you having me. Nice to meet all of you, and thank you.
Thanks so much, Dirk Johan Stromberg, for giving us details and knowledge. Actually, knowledge. That must be the word for the experimental music. Not only, it's just only the idea in general of people who want to create something in music. Yeah. And it's unexpected journey for me. I mean, to hear this. That's why the topic is about what the
objects of my affection.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Because these are my objects. These are the things I work with, and I have deep relationships with these things. I mean, I spend just like you have a relationship with your guitar, but this is something I've made from scratch and thought about, and they're part of me, and they're an expression. They are an expression of how I think about music and how I think about the world and the way I want to interact with it. That's why that's kind of the idea of what I'm working towards.
Yeah. Okay. So we call it.
Thank you.
A day now.
Sounds good.
Cheers.
Cheers.
ก็ยังไงก็วันนี้ก็รวดเร็วครับไม่ยืดยาวนานอะไรมากนะครับก็หวังว่าทุกคนก็ได้สาระอะไรจากเรื่องนี้พอสมควรนะครับยังไงเดี๋ยวผมก็ต้องไปอธิบายกับนักศึกษาต่ออยู่ดีนะฮะยังไงก็ติดตามรายการครั้งหน้าได้ครับยังไงวันนี้ผมก็ขอบคุณเบื้องหลังครับพี่ฟิวครับพี่ฟิวกำพลครับเจ้าหน้าที่ที่ดูแลอำนวยความสะดวกทุกอย่างกับการจัดไลฟ์ทุกครั้งนะครับยังไงก็สำหรับวันนี้ก็ขอบคุณครับพบกันครั้งหน้าครับสวัสดีครับ